is live, right? Let's see it. Here it is. All right, let's start the class. Someone wants to chant? I'm starting the recording.
Recording has started.
I'll chant today.
Namaskar, Dipti.
Namaste. Welcome to the class. Sadashivasamarambham Shankaracharya-madhyamam Asmadacharya-paryantam Vande Guru-paramparam. Sadashivas Shruti-smriti-purananam Alayam Karunalayam Namami Bhagavad-pada Shankaram Lokashankaram Shankaram Shankaracharyam Keshavam Badarayanam Sutra Bhashya Kritau Vande Bhagavantau Punah Punaha. Om Sahana Vavatu Sahanau Bhunaktu Sahaviryam Karavavahai Tejasvinavadhitamastu Ma Vidvishavahai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. I'm chanting 64 to 66, 63 to 66. Krodhat bhavati sammohaha sammohat smriti vibhramaha smritir bhramshat buddhinashaha buddhinashat pranashyati raga dvesha viyuktaistu Vishayanindriyaischaran Atma Vashyirvidheyatma Prasadam-adhigacchati Prasade sarva-dukkhanam Hanirasyopajayate Prasanna-chetaso hyashu Buddhi paryavatishthate Nasti buddhirayuktasya na chayuktasya bhavana na cha bhavayatah shantihi ashantasya kutah sukham. So now we are fairly completed. What is it that gives us the first hand control over our thoughts. Just mere repetition with the background that I will find my happiness when I perceive an object and I associate a pleasantness with it, and I feel that this acquisition is going to give me what I'm looking for. That brings about sangaha. And sangaha meant that we are getting close, we are getting in our mind attached to the thought of the object. बार बार मन में जो चल रहा है. So the first level of control, Shanti, is when this is cut, that thought flow is addressed and it is cut. How does one cut it? In the world, we find the Laukik methods are available, that you cut it by transferring your attention, distracting yourself. Whatever your mind is occupied by, you distract it, put it into some other avenue, and to that an extent, your mind has quietened. But that is a very temporary way in which this is sorted. The idea is to falsify at the very level of the thought. संग बनाने के लिए वो जो एक अंदर खालीपन लगता है, that संग से भरेगा कि नहीं, that has to be thought about. Will my acquisition of that object or whatever, will it fill me up? Will it satiate me? Definitely, we find it does not. Actually, we all know that also, that it does not. So then what? Then once your buddhi is alert and has assessed that this is not going to be advisable, this is not going to be something that is sought after really, my mind loses the push for it. अंदर से खत्म हो जाता है, वो जरूरत नहीं है. That's the stage where most of the sadhaks who become matured in their sadhana, they reach the point where they say, है तो अच्छा है, नहीं है तो it's okay. If it is to be what is to be, if it is got by maybe a normal effort or no effort is the best, but if it is got by a little effort, it's okay. But if it's not got, that also is not a issue. That's not a problem. That's sangaha. He said, once somebody forms, you are at a weaker point. That now is going to push you to want to gain. काम बन जाता है. When the desire is formed, काम बन जाती है, then now you are at a further weaker point than you were at the beginning. Your maximum strength as a person, as a purusharth, is when you are actually at the highest point, thought level. You pick it up there, stop the thought flow, direct it to where it is intended to be. It is easy to say in a few sentences, but that is why this is called as sadhana. That is why it involves practice. That is why it involves what they call as that effort you will put in will be termed as tapas. Once you have got freed of this, then the whole thought flow gets freed. You get freed of kamaha, kama born krodhaha, krodhaha born sammohaha, sammohaha born smriti, brahmaha, smritihi brahmaha born buddhinashaha, buddhinashaha pranashyati. Extraordinary piece of information. And I think we are quite complete here. If there's any question, I would stop here and take that within this context. Otherwise, we'll move forward here. Because now he's going to show us the contrast of this. Am I making, is the topic clear? Yeah?
Yes.
So then I guess if there are no questions, we'll move forward then. Now he says in 64th verse, what is the opposite? Shankara says here, Sarva anarthasya moolam uktam vishaya abhidhyanam. Abhidhyanam means varam varam dhyanam. Thought following thought. Again and again. It keeps on following on the same object. That is abhidhyanam. बार बार सोचना किसी बारे में, किसी चीज के लिए, अपने आप जब माइंड बार बार सोचता है. That is abhidhyanam. किसको लेके अभिध्यानम? विषय को लेके. What is the विषय? Sense object. विषयों को लेके sense objects, and here let me remind, sense object means anything that the senses perceive, which includes people. इंद्रियों के विषय हैं. You are observing them, you are seeing them, you know their presence through your indriyas. So विषय अभिध्यानम means बार बार उसके बारे में सोचना, उनके बारे में सोचना, उस विषय के बारे में सोचना. The previous two verses says moolam sarva anarthasya. Moolam means root. That is the root cause of what? Sarva anartha. Of all things that is anartham. Anartham means something that you don't want, something that is not desirable, something that you did not seek, which means, what am I seeking? I am seeking happiness. What is sarva anartha? That which will not be happiness. That means, what is the cause of me being unhappy? What is the cause of me being disturbed? What is the cause of me being agitated? What is the cause of me being empty feeling? What is the cause of it? He says, your chase of the mentally chasing the objects. विषयों के ऊपर बार बार ध्यान देना. So if that has been pointed out, but natural, any sincere or any seeker will ask, then how am I to gain what I want, which will be the cause of happiness? The cause of unhappiness is pointed out. Would you also point out how will happiness come? How is happiness generated? How is happiness got? Am I truly seeking happiness? Is that a wrong seeking? In other words, should we just accept life means unhappiness and in between a little happiness? I often say, nature is so kind that you will never have a season for so long, at least here we find in North. If there are winters for a few days at a stretch, severe winter, one day you will get a little relief. And then maybe the cycle picks up again 2-3 times. The same thing happens in monsoon. Same thing happens in summer. When it's very, very, very hot, you find that there is some rain that intercepts it. That little relief, should we accept that as the nature of life? That means there is so much struggle in life for which I'm always putting effort and trying, throwing darts in a blind room, hoping that it will meet the bullseye. Am I doing that? Am I to accept that as a nature of life? Is my seeking for happiness justified or not? प्रश्न ये है. हम सबको आनंद चाहिए, हम सबको सुख चाहिए, हम सबको ऐसा सुख चाहिए जिसमें कोई अंत नहीं है, हम सबको शांति चाहिए. The question is that a justifiable seeking? प्रश्न है ये. A thought has to go there. Is it something that is proper? Is it something that is correct? He says, Shastra says, yes. Seeking happiness is not incorrect. Seeking happiness is, in fact, by default, the way of your gati. Usko, here he says, moksha karanam, because the kind of happiness that we are seeking, the shanti that you want, is defined as moksha. What is moksha? People have all kinds of idea around it. As many people, so many ideas, because it's a term that is differently defined in different ways by different schools also. What is truly moksha? I'm putting it in the simplest ways. It is that innermost, or it is that avastha, state of one's being, which is absolutely at relaxation within. Absolute relaxation within at all times, in all conditions. That is shanti, moksha. I'm repeating because it'll be a very not often heard kind of a thing, in the sense we have an idea of what is moksha. Kya hai moksha? वो मुक्त हो गया means what? Like Arjuna is asking, मुक्त होने के बाद वो कैसे चलेगा, वो कैसे बैठेगा, वो कैसे बातें करेगा, वो कैसे अपने आप से रहेगा? Means I have a concept of moksha. But what is moksha? That state of yours, avastha is the right word. Avastha. Stha means rehna, baithna. We saw this before also. Avastha. In English, it's called state. Waking state. Jagrat avastha. Swapna avastha. Sushupti avastha. अवस्था आपकी वो अवस्था है जहां अंदर कुछ उमाड़ नहीं है. Umad is the right word. There is no disturbance. There is no. It's at total peace with oneself. It has total peace with oneself. It is at total peace with the world. It is at complete therav. It is in complete state of independent state of happiness, self-abiding. That is what the 55th verse anyway was. By himself, he is happy. By himself, he is tushta. By himself, he is ratihi, enjoys by himself. It's unconditional. It is your own state. उसको कहने के लिए, if this much is said, we can all kind of identify in our thoughts a little. Seems possible, seems right. Sometimes that I have found that inner peace and shanti Why do people go to pilgrimages? Why do people go to all kinds of activities? And when they find it, meditation, people take to meditation because of that. People do extraordinary service in the world because that service gives them shanti. People do upasana, people take namajapa. You have some method or the other where you hit upon, you touch upon that shanti. That shanti, which is here in the context, in the sense of me, the person being shant, Shastra's whole methodology is that shanti that you are seeking is not incorrect. That shanti is acceptable, is your state in fact. What is not contributing to that shanti was what was said already. How did you fall into this state of ashanti? 62, 63 verse. Whereas a person who is Stita Prajna, what does he do? He has gone through a stage of, I'll call it rewinding. You know, when we, in the olden time, just a few years ago, we used to have those cassettes. We would record on cassettes, and a cassette player you would play. When you play the cassette player, it goes ends and then it goes auto stop. That was one of the inventions, that it would auto stop. It's finished. Now, what do you, if you have to play again, you had to rewind the whole thing. To rewind the whole thing is also an action, is a planning, is a process, action in this context of tape. But that I have a sense of individuality associated with the name and form is all forward imposition. शरीर से जुड़ के अपने आप को मैंने ये बनाया है, कहा है, शरीर से जुड़ के, नाम रूप से जुड़ के, ये मैं हूं. All this is rebound. How is it rebound? This is a beautiful process and actually very systematic, but it is needs persistence and it needs effort. It needs dedication. It needs a very strong will and a very strong viveka shakti, jignasa, which already has come through some vairagyam, some inquiry of the world, that this is a possible purusharth. That inner shanti, inner happiness that I'm seeking, there is a process to that. And what is the process? It is negation of all that I have added. Thought by thought. We have been doing this in the last 2, 3 classes. Thought by thought, I thought this will give me fulfillment, and I went and added plenty of movement there, etc., etc. That innermost state, whoever has gone through this, and he said, that person is now mukta, sthira prajna. His knowledge of his being ever free of what is happening here is always available to him. It never gets clouded by the gush of emotions or by desires or by confusions. It is ever available. Like, for example, what is projected on the screen? What is the notion of the screen on which the movie is projected? The notion on the screen is unaffected by what is happening on the screen. Screen is not affected by anything happening on the screen. That avastha within oneself is actually oneself, and it is freeing off, unpeeling the layers that शरीर से जुड़ के अहंकार रख के जो हमने आरोपित किए हैं. It is unpeeling of that. He said, you have taught us now You have shown us samsara moola karanam is vishaya abhidhyanam. Atha, now, idanim, here, moksha karanam. What is the way to come back to the state of my happiness, of my moksha, complete free avastha, a freedom avastha in which I am absolutely free. What is that avastha? And he says in the 64th verse, I'll chant it twice. Raga dvesha viyuktaistu Vishayanindriyaishcharan Atmavashyirvidheyatma Prasadamadigatchati. Ragadvesha viyuktaistu Vishayanindriyaishcharan Atmavashyirvidheyatma Prasadamadigatchati. Now, what is this? He says, see the last part first. Prasadam adhigachati. Prasad ko पा लेता है. Adhigachati goes towards means gains. Prasad milta hai. He gets prasadam. What is this prasadam? What we just have been saying. What was the prasadam being referred to here?
The state, the state, yeah, no, like you've achieved moksha or you are in the state of.
Absolutely. That moksha, which is avastha of complete shanti, absolute shanti. Prasadam पा लेता है वो, which means purusharth is now complete. Purusharth is successful. Purusharth has reached its end. Supposing someone wants money in the world and you start putting effort for it, when will you stop putting the effort for that? When you have accomplished enough. Of course, this is a limited example. Greed will take over, you'll go on. That's right. But here, just in the context of understanding, that purusharth for which you're putting effort ceases, completes. अब इसकी जरूरत नहीं है. I think the better example is when we finish schooling, say 10th board exam we gave, or the 12th exam we gave, or the college when we graduation. What did you do with the books? Or even before, say from the 5th standard to the 6th standard when you moved, what did you do to your 5th standard books? Gave up. अब इनकी जरूरत नहीं है. That actual feeling that I have crossed now, I don't need this. That purusharth is complete. There is no effort needed now. When you will not need to put in any effort and you still are there, you're still there, alive. What is that state of living? That is prasadam, what I am seeking. Ever state of relaxation, which means the sunrise is felt, the sunset is felt, the pleasant weather is felt, people are known, everything is perceived. But अंदर की स्थिति क्या है? ना कोई पुरुषार्थ के लिए, there is no हलचल inside. कुछ करने की हलचल नहीं है, कुछ बनने की हलचल नहीं है, कहीं जाने की हलचल नहीं है, कुछ प्राप्त करने की हलचल नहीं है, कुछ छोड़ने की हलचल नहीं है, कुछ खो देने का डर नहीं है, कुछ नथिंग, कुछ नहीं है. Means you are there, but entirely at Shanti within yourself. Can you identify the contrast? Can you see, recognize the contrast that is being pointed? That,
Yes.
that difference. What are we today? उठते ही morning, even before you get out of bed, what is happening to our minds? ये ठीक नहीं है, इसको ऐसे करना है, ये ठीक है, आज ये करना है, आज ये जाना है, आज वो करना है. There is always inside a need to identify with the body action or with the thought to do and achieve something, to be something, to go somewhere, to have something. That relaxes completely. अंदर से शांत है. शरीर का स्वभाव शरीर पे है, दुनिया का स्वभाव दुनिया पे है. Everything has its own, you recognize it as is and you leave it there. Nothing is identified at one's own state. Prasadam adhigacchati. That prasadam, Shankara says here, prasannata. This prasadam, prasadaha, prasannata. So a lot of people always have this confusion. So if a person has moksha, are they dull people? Are they lifeless? Are they cold? Kaise hai? As Arjuna is asking. Arjuna is asking. Shankara says, prasanna chit hai. उनका चित्त, उनका मन प्रसन्न है, प्रफुल्लित रहता है. They are always, that prasanna is the right word. Prasanna is always pleased, is always cheerful, is always happy. Prasanna hai. That prasannata, Shankara says, swasthyam. Absolutely outstanding meaning. Swasthyam. Swasthyam means swasthata. Swasthrena. What is swasthyam? The state of being swasth. Swasth means healthy. This is the only healthy state of one's own being. Here your mind, your antakaranam, which is freed of entire sense of egoism, that prasannata in its original state, in its sthit avastha, atma sthit avastha, is this swasthyam, swasthaye. This antakaranam is now swasth. The happiness is not in the vishaya. इंद्रियों का सुख नहीं है, विषय का सुख नहीं है, प्रसन्न है. कैसे हुआ ये प्रसन्न? Who is this prasanna? The first thing he says, that जो प्रसन्नता को पा गया है, जिसको ये पुरुषार्थ पूरा हो गया है, जो कृतकृत हो गया है, he has nothing more left to seek and get. Such a person is vidheya atma. Vidheya atma means one who has atma vashyehi vidheya atma. He is a master. Vidheya atma ichchataha atma. Antakaranam yasya saha. Whose antakaranam, and antakaranam I think everybody knows now. Antakaranam is mano buddhi chit ahankar. Your entire bundle of thought. Your entire realm of thought. इच्छातः, अपनी इच्छा से, उसकी इच्छा के अंडर है. Means इच्छा is not how we see it. It's under his own control. आत्मा वश्यैहि. Under his own control. And then what? How has all this come under his own control? He's got prasadam because has all his antakaranam under his control. How? Raga dvesha viyuktaihi. Another pathantaram, alternate reading is vimuktaihi. Both are same. Viyukt means alag hoke. Vimukt also means free hoke. Raga dvesha viyuktaihi. Yes. राग और द्वेष से the one who has found freedom, the one who is not afflicted by rag and dvesh. And what was rag and dvesh? Where are rag and dvesh formed? We saw this since yesterday, or even before last week. Where is raga dvesh based? In the mind.
Found in Indriya.
No, raga dvesh is in the mind. Indriya is only moved by pleasant and unpleasant. अच्छा लग tickled by अच्छा and बुरा, but राग द्वेष तो मन में है. That is why कामना मन में बन रही है. Indriya is the first level. Pleasant, unpleasant, अच्छा लगा, नहीं लगा, just about that much. That is why your control at the Indriya is possible. Mind is also possible, little more difficult. राग द्वेष से वियुक्त ही. That tu was that in decline. That tu is saying opposite of what the other two words are. Tu means now moksha karanam kya hai? What is moksha karanam? Raga dvesha viyuktaha. He's freed of his raga and dvesh. Means perceptions are forming. He is interacting in the world, but interactions are not creating personal superimposed judgments of I like it, I want it, I'll be unhappy if I don't get it. Such statements are not formed. Why? Because he's Atma Drishti, he's Poonam. Raga dvesha viyuktaihi tu vishayani indriyaihi charan. This vidheya Atma moves about, charan, chalta hai, charta hai. He goes about Vishaya Indriyaihi Charan. As the Indriyas keep moving in the world, he is moving freely in the world, interacting in the world. Avarjaniyam. Nothing stops. Upalabhamanaha means that person now who's gained that Atmavashyehi. He gains that control over himself and then moves freely in the world. Freed of rag and dvesh. What does he get? Prasadam adhigachati. That is the way in which you escalate again. So we said in the last class, the way to fall was one thought at a time. The way to rise is freeing the force of that raga dvesh first, and that is important. Avoiding objects is never recommended, not advised, unless and until there is knowledge which is preceding that withdrawal of the object. विषयों को छोड़ने की बात तभी आती है when you are at the second stage of control, when you want mental control and you need to avoid it for some time. So, raga dvesha viyuktaihi. Raga dvesha. Normally, what happens, Shankara says here very beautifully, in all of us who have avidya as our motivating factor to seek our fulfillment, in all of us, what is happening? This raga and dvesh, tat puraha sarahi indriyanam pravritti swabhaviki. For us, rag and dvesh is the force of the indriyas pravritti. That's our swabhavik nature. हमारा अपना इंस्टिंक्ट क्या है, हमारी अपनी गति कैसी है अविद्या में, how are we interacting in the world? Raga dvesh pushes our indriyas to its respective force, to its respective object. Tatpurasaraha pushes it. Raga dvesh is one which is now leading it, leading the indriyas as if to there. That is our swabhavikness. जो हमें पसंद आता है उसकी तरफ हम जाते हैं, ये हमारा स्वाभाविक नेचर है. But is this truly your inner nature? Shastra says no, that's not your nature. Here, this mumukshu, the one who starts the journey like any one of us, what does the mumukshu do? He has known that the only purusharth worth making in life is to discover that shanti. उसके लिए क्या करना है? He has said it in the previous verses, of course. Approach your actions with karam yoga, etc. And you will find how they free you from raga dvesh. Karam yoga will free you from raga dvesh. You will be active, and yet your mind is at shanti within itself, because raga dvesh is not propelling the karma. That is how a mumukshu leads himself. So he goes about moving in the world. Here Arjuna had asked Kim Vrajeta, his fourth question. Vrajeta Kim, that was his fourth question. That question is now being answered. What is it? He says, he moves about without ragadvesh, and control within, as in everything is under his observation. That self-controlled, self-contained one, mumukshu, gains prasada. And then what? He says, I'll do this verse also. Prasade sarva dukkhanam hanirasyopajayate prasanna chetaso yashu buddhi paryavatishthate. Prasade sarva dukkhanam hanirasyopajayate prasanna chetaso yashu buddhi paryavatishthate. Now what he says? Shankara says, so far okay? Any question on this verse? All okay for now? I think so, it's quite clear. So he says now,
Dipti, like you said that someone who has attained moksha will, when they wake up in the morning, they will not have any pressing ideas as to आज ये करना है, आज वो करना है, ये नहीं हुआ, वो नहीं हुआ. They are at peace in their being. They have an internal shanti. When we look at at great people, like I've been reading Swami Chinmayananda's life, so उनकी lives में भी कितना action है, and like you said, action को छोड़ना बिल्कुल मना है, एक्शन नहीं छोड़ सकते, अपना एक्शन आपने करना है. But it seems like a very, it seems like a almost elusive kind of a place where ये करना है, and the moment you say ये करना है, उसके साथ let's say for example you want to put someone in charge of some activity, you will say these people are suitable and these people are not suitable, this particular task has to be done, this place is suitable and this place is, मतलब ये positives and negatives आपको हर चीज नजर आएगी. So then it gets very the राग द्वेष थोड़ा थोड़ा क्रीप इन होने का चांस बहुत हाई है वहां पर.
राग द्वेष क्रीप होने का चांस हाई उसी के लिए है जिसमें राग द्वेष है. But if you do an action just because it is to be done, your objectivity controls the decision. Your assessment is everybody has different capacities and gunas. It's exactly like in an organization. In an organization, if a director chooses, this is your job, this is your job, why does he delegate that job to someone? Because he sees that that person has the capacity or the capability. He expects that this may be his nature and he can perform over there. In the case of a director. Now, for a kritakrit person, when they are active in the world, they are active not because of, let me put it, there is no personal gain out of that action. What is raga dvesh? It's all personal. It's all personal. That's it. If your objective of life raises, even supposing at a very simple level, even if it is from yourself to your family, even if it raises that much, do you not find raga dvesh being neutralized to some extent?
जी.
Their objective of life is the more, in fact, let me put it the reverse. The more one finds oneself free from raga dvesh, higher the vision one identifies with. And higher the vision one has, that point, the raga dvesh is not the determining factor. You are free already. Even in a relative level, you identify. A parent having 5 children, 3 children, at one level, the parent knows I'm not making one child, I don't have more feeling for one than the other. Average. We are flawed parents, so we may find I have more liking for one child than the other. But averagely speaking, a parent will say no. Okay, after that, maybe because that child is this, or they may have their reasons to, but at certain point, they know that their ragdvesh doesn't operate when it comes to their duty as a parent. Is this correct statement or not?
हाँ जी, correct.
But that's extended further. Even at our level, we find that in our actions, ragdvesh is neutralized when we are acting on duty. But it creeps back again in us because our person is not freed of it. Our person is looking for our fulfillment through our actions. But if the objective, supposing I say, Swami Chinmananji had an objective to spread this knowledge, why should it not be available to every information? At least why was it called mission? It was called a mission. It is still called a mission. Why is it a mission? Because when he came back from the Himalayas, he came back with the purpose that this knowledge should be made available, give information. It was not expected that people will all pursue moksha. The first set of teachers were all told, when you go back after they finished learning whatever was necessary, the purpose of the course was to go back and make teachers so that you can inform the society. It was not anything other than that. It was The purpose was learn and inform. It's like having a missionary. Have a purpose. There afterwards, you dedicate your life not for yourself, not for your home. You are ready to put your life. It's like how a patriot does. If someone has a patriotic notion, what does a patriotic do? A patriot do? He puts the country above his own needs and he makes sacrifices at his own levels. He always keeps the country before his own personal family and needs. That's a patriot. If he's using the country for his fulfillment, that's manipulation, that's desire ridden. If you want power for your sake, that is entirely desire, that is entirely what is going to be the cause of disharmony. A patriot is one who is ready to put the country before his own self. And there are people, in fact, that's a seeking. Exactly the same way, dhyayataha vishayan pumsaha. One thought at a time, they identified what is the right way to rise above this pettiness of a small vision of life. The smallness of life, the pettiness of life with which we all live and we all die within, they identify there is an alternative way in which you can live life. At that point, it doesn't. Now, patriot doesn't have moksha as a goal. In the context of Vedanta, yes, we have this mumukshu who seeks this knowledge for it. He is far, far higher than any highest goal. But at that stage, when he delegates to someone, it is entirely seeing the gunas of the person, and the objectivity is very high. It's very easy to identify because there is knowledge. अगर आप ब्लैक को ब्लैक ना देखो और आप कहो नहीं ये शायद ग्रे है तो ये कैसा ज्ञान होगा? If you can't recognize gunas as gunas operating in the world of everyone, including because they've seen it in themselves and conquered it to relative levels within themselves, they're able to identify it everywhere. They're not going to change. You know the temperaments, you can figure out what is good for this temperament, how can this temperament be utilized for the higher cause, how can that temperament be made best use of in that cause. They are able to assess correctly. In the interest of what? In the interest of the higher. They are not getting anything out of it. It's a movement. And whoever decided to join the movement became a part of that, saying, okay, I am allowing myself to be told by, here in the context, they accept Swamiji as their guru, and they say, okay, whatever they tell us, we are doing that. That is helping them to do karma yoga, because it is increasing the whole, it is helping the individual to dissolve their own raga dvesha by what they cannot pitch for themselves. They found a guru who said, this is your higher pitch, you live for this. It's not always going to be successful. That's not necessary in terms of external fructification. But out of 100, there'll definitely be 5 who will benefit, or 2 who will benefit, or even if 1 benefits, the whole purpose is served. Is that correct? Is that understood?
Anji.
Yeah. So actually, why we find it difficult is because from our standpoint, we are so caught up in raga dvesh that we will not be able to project that. But if you look at this relative example, definitely when it comes to my children, if I have 2 or 3, or if I look around who have 2 or 3 children, no, that is a neutralizer. There is a certain level of neutralization of raga dvesh there when you're operating on your duty as a parent. Would all of you agree on that example? Hannah? Even if you know one child is more better in quality than the other, In fact, you may have more preference for the other sometimes, but it is not because of raga dvesh. It is because that child may need more of your attention. In fact, that is how you grow. That is why a family can also help. Family helps you to grow. Fine.
जी.
So yeah, but a good question in that sense. It's
Very
good.
well,
Sorry.
very well explained, Diti ji. Thank you.
Welcome. So he said here, something here. Okay, there's a good question here. Uh, a man without attachment or aversion will pursue excellence with unmatched vigor in anything he does. A man will be who has a higher will pursue excellence in anything he does. Where does he get this energy from or fire from? It is a very interesting rule. If you say he is without attachment or aversion, pursuing excellence, that is slightly contradiction. There's a slight contradiction as I understand that. Without attachment or aversion, he will not be pursuing excellence, and there's no finite limit there that he will pursue. But yes, when you act without raga dvesh, where does that energy come from? That is an independent question in itself, because they are highly energetic. Say in this example, as she said, Swami Chinmayananji was very energetic, very energetic. In fact, the discipline was so strong that however many letters he got in a day, in those days there used to be letters, however many letters he got, the discipline to the students given by whoever was in charge, because he had to sign them, he would, by the end of the day, that day's actions should have been completed, however time it takes. There was no carry forward in the next day. It's a fascinating discipline. You know, the rigor with which you can dedicate yourself when there is no personalization. It's a very, very energizing state. That's why it's so pleasing to look at such people, because they're so energetic by the very higher. In fact, let me re-put this from our context. That's how we'll see it better. Why are we losing energy? Why don't we have energy? Let's question that. Why are they energetic? Let's find that out by the contrast. Why do we lose energy? Why are we not energetic? Why are we not fired up? Who
Because we are
prevents us from
distracted.
being fired up? Sorry?
We are overthinking. We are running after desires.
We're distracted by various different types of thoughts, and we also, in our pursuit of pleasure, we allow ourselves the liberty कि कोई बात नहीं, आज नहीं किया तो कल कर लेंगे, कोई बात नहीं, इतना कोई फर्क नहीं पड़ता. Because why? Because we say कि अभी मेरे लिए दूसरा pleasure enjoy करना ज्यादा जरूरी है, या अभी मेरे लिए rest करना ज्यादा जरूरी है, otherwise मेरे को personally pain होगा.
Absolutely correct. And also, result always in focus. Absolutely. We are all the time अपना अपना सोचना. That's exactly what he said. हमारी fulfillment सोच रहे हैं ना हम. That's it. So we lose energy. Now, if your own person is not involved, as much less is involved, so much fire you will have. Correct.
And DTC, I think even this concept of tiredness, all of that just goes away. There is no concept of all of that is all mithya. That's what you said, right? हम कहते रहते हैं हम tired है, हम ये है, हम वो है. All of that is mithya state wherein your mind is just running off to another.
Absolutely. In fact, it is a direct indicator you are following wrong principles. No one by nature, no one by nature can actually be tired before night sleep falls. The body is designed in such a way that you can remain active the whole day, and by night The body needs to replenish itself, and sleep is a gift. But to all of us, our days are like chicken without a head. Moving here, there, without purpose, without prayojan, without anything. Looking at others, looking at this, looking at that, and then thinking that, etc., etc. Okay. So that is the reason why they are fired up. Fine. So that prasadam, once he gets a prasadam, the question that Shankara puts in as a combined, as a connection is, prasade sati kim syat? What will you get? What is got? What is got when he gets that prasad? Kya mila? What happens? Kim syat. Now he says exactly what we started the class with. Prasade sarva dukkhanam. In that prasad, sarva dukkhanam hanihi asya upajayate. Sarva dukkhanam. All kinds of dukkha, all kinds of pain. That all kinds of pain, how many kinds of dukkha is there? Anybody remembers? We did this a few classes back. How many kinds of dukkha is there? Broadly, I'll repeat. At the end of every invocation, we do 3 shantis. What are the 3 shantis for?
Adhi bhautik, adhyatmik, and
Daivik.
adhidaivik.
Adidaivik. So adhyatmik, adhibhautik, adidaivik. These 3 sources of dukkhas can only come from one of these 3 sources. Means you have within yourself your own mental disturbances, even your physical stomach ache is a dukkha, cause of dukkha, headache is a cause of dukkha, etc. Your own atripti is a cause of dukkha, etc. From the external environment, there is no water, there is no light, there is this disease, there is that war happening. From some source or the other, there is some dukkha happening, means there's some obstacle, there is some inhibitions functioning. And from the highest sources, there is the whole town disappearing in a landslide, the entire belt of the earth is shifting. There is cyclone, there is adi daivik, forces that are not in your hand, not in your control, no one's control, but they can be a cause of your, like a war. Lakhs of people are displaced. Of course, that's not adi daivik, that's adi bhautik. Adi daivik is this kind of a landslide that's happening north part of India at the moment. All kinds of calamities, right? Natural calamities. Hanihi adhyatmik adinam here. Sarva dukkhanam adhyatmik adi. So the 3 kinds of, don't forget this, because this keeps coming in the context. Yehi hamara samsar hai. These 3 sources of sorrow itself is our samsar. That's all that samsar is that we talk of. Dukh ka feel hona is what is samsar. These are the 3 causes for it. Sarva dukkhanam. When he gets that prasadam, that inner shanti, in that inner shanti, all dukkha, hanihi. What is hanihi? Vinashaha. This complete destruction of all forms of dukkham. Asya. Asya is in this verse itself. This is asya pada. Hanihi asya upajayate. Asya is who? Yatehe. Who's yatehe? In one of the previous verses, he said munihi. He's the one who's putting in the effort, the mumukshu, the sadhak. He's the one who's striving for his own higher. For this yatihi, for this tapasvi, for this, here in the context of jnani, yatna karta hua yatihi. जो पुरुषार्थ कर रहा है वो यति ही. For him, what is it? आध्यात्मिक आदि नाम, हर किस्म का दुख विनाशः उपजायते. That prasad, everything is dissolved. All forms of dukh have taken destruction. It's like when a fire burns something, everything is brought down to ashes. You cannot say that fire will not touch this and will not touch that. Whatever is flammable, everything inflammable, whatever is inflammable, flammable, whatever is flammable, everything will come down to burn, to ashes. That is what he gets. Prasanna chetasaha. One whose चित्त is prasanna. प्रसाद में क्या मिला? प्रसन्नता, स्वच्छता. Swachhata was antakarna shuddhi. That shuddhi that he got, that shuddhata is his prasannata. What happens? He says, Shikrahi ashu. He ashu. Indeed, very, very soon. Shikra. Buddhihi pari avatishthate. His buddhi will be firm. रह जाएगी, स्थिर हो जाएगी. Now the buddhi will not be wavering. What are the verse which said buddhi wavers? Where is it said that buddhi wavers?
Yada te moha kalilam buddhir
Vyatitarishyati tada gantasi nirvedam shrotavyasya shrutasya cha. When all this mala is gone from the buddhi, he develops vairagyam for what is heard, what is to be heard. And once he's developed samadhau achala buddhihi, now his buddhi has become achal, unmoving. It doesn't waver. Such a one is gaining that yogam. That yoga that he said there is now talking of as that prasada. And in that prasada, buddhihi pari avatisthate. The buddhi becomes firm. Where? Which buddhi? Through Shastra Shravanam, through your Mananam, through your Nididhyasnam. I'm going to repeat these three. Shastra Shravanam comes from Guru Upadesha, Shastra Upadesha first, Guru Upadesha. Shastra Shravanam is from your external source. But that Shravanam is now Mananam, your Mananam on it, your Nididhyasanam on it. That once it is there, he says, such a person whose buddhi has been taught about Atma, now he has gained the prakriya, the method of rewinding the tape through his mananam and nididhyasnam. There is no samshaya left about the heard portion. Vedant ka shravanam, man mein doubt nahi hai. That Vedanta shravanam is given the vritti of Brahman. I am Brahman. That Gyan has now entered. But this I am Brahman, Aham Brahmasmi, that Gyan is not my Gyan today. My Gyan is still I am this Jiva, I am this individual. I have billion things to do before I give up the body. Even before tomorrow, I have billion things to do today. In the next 5 years, I have so much to do. And in the next 10 years, I have so much to do. We all have plans in our life. Such a one means ब्रह्म आकार वृत्ति, ब्रह्मन को लेके वृत्ति बन नहीं रही. सुना सुना, व्हाट इज इट, दोहा, सुन सुन के भी, देयर इज अ दोहा देयर, don't remember, कहावत और दोहा. Whatever is being heard about Vedantic portion, actual Vedanta Shravanam, Vedant का ब्रह्मन portion, आत्मा portion, हमारी नींद आ जाती है. There's something that clouds us, our interest. something that our interest goes on what is immediately applicable to our life. This issue, what is the knowledge to resolve that? That kind of a funneled vision to knowledge does not make a knowledge heard. I'm going to repeat this, very important. Has anybody understood in this much also, this sentence, without me repeating?
You see that again, Dipti?
Huh. No one's understood it? Okay, I'm going to repeat this. What really happens is when we hear Shravanam, Shravanam is what? Shravanam is not in your control. This is pure earned anugrah by your past action. इसको हम ईश्वर अनुग्रह कहते हैं, इसको हम शास्त्र अनुग्रह कहते हैं, इसको हम गुरु अनुग्रह कहते हैं, इसको हम प्योर ग्रेस कहते हैं. बिकॉज मैं कितना भी हाथ पैर मार लूं दुनिया में, my ear will only hear what I want to hear. And till I'm ready to hear, somehow the words don't fall, even if it's available. So the first exposure to knowledge has come by my purvam, earned by my past effort. But once Vedantic Shravanam starts, so the jurisdiction of Shravanam is in the hands of Shastra and Shastra based explanation that is hands now on the Guru. Guru Shastra Sahit jo explanation de raha hai of Brahma being your nature, Brahman being your nature, and this today what you think you are is all in the realms of Anatma. This is not you. Wo Shravanam through the help of Shastra's texts that is there, Vedanta texts, with the help of, say here, Shankara is helping us, and one odd time we take the help of Tikakars, these great acharyas who have made so much effort to make that portion clear. That jurisdiction, once I've heard, here afterwards, the mananam is yours. That information, how does it churn with my existing information? How does it mix up with my existing thinking? How am I receiving that thinking? Invariably, most of the times, people are listening to the knowledge, even of that Brahman portion, or through the Vedantic text. They listen to it in a very selective way. I'm calling it a funneled vision. What your problem existing, or whatever your mind is dwelling on in the present, you're trying to find an answer through that. So it's a funneled vision. As a result of which, most of the portion of Atma Vidya remains actually unheard. There's some sort of a sleepiness that comes over us, unrelatability that happens. So we are always focused on what is immediate. That's why is Bhagavad Gita more popular than any other text? Because here we are able to communicate it to say this you can first apply in life. It tells you about life. So it is able to bring your attention. हाँ अच्छा मेरी जिंदगी में काम आएगा ये. That value is given to it. That value that I'm associating with it is with that idea that it will figure my life out for me. Help me with it. That Brahma Akara Vritti doesn't happen. So what is or happens aram aram. I won't say it doesn't happen. It happens dhire 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 to the extent I'm purifying through my Shravanam that I'm doing. But my point of emphasis is that Shravanam must bring about a vritti. It's a new thought process that you have got exposed to. You didn't know about you being Brahman before. Did anybody suspect that you were Brahman before you heard in a Vedanta class anywhere in the world? मालूम था, कभी सुना था कि मैं ब्राह्मण हूं? पहली बार जब सुना तो I will tell you about myself. My reaction was I laughed. I was told once as a kid, I was told by an astrologer, you will teach Gita. You will be you will be so involved in this subject. And I was in school at that time, and I laughed. I still remember how I rolled in my laughter. I held my stomach and I laughed, and I said, "What is that? What is Gita? What are you talking about?" You know, it was so hilarious. The idea was so hilarious. Ki, what are they talking? What is it? I don't. How is that going to happen? Ever? It's an impossibility. That notion that it is impossible is preventing the idea of Brahman. Never heard. Suna nahi humne kabhi. The first time you hear, you throw it out, you reject it because it looks counter to your intellect, to your thinking. It doesn't match the experience of the world. So you tend to reject it. But you're not able to reject it completely because some portion of the Shastra is holding your attention, which pertains to the knowledge that gives to you about who you think you are. शास्त्र उसे अनात्मा कह रहा है, शास्त्र उसे कह रहा है कि दिस इज नॉट यू. अगर वो जो कह रहा है, you know that it is you. One thought at a time is how I built my attachment. I lingered on that pleasant sensation, and today I felt want I want more company of this person, or I want more of that. Why do people take to um, all kinds of enjoyments in life? Because when the Shastra tells me this, I can relate. So, which portion am I relating? I'm relating to the portion that applies to this individual. The Brahma Akara Vritti is not forming because Atma Vidya is the real topic of Vedanta. There, my qualification is still not, my attention is getting drawn to what applies. So, Mananam meant what? Means what? That Shravanam should be objective. From day one that I have taken classes, I teach, day one I have said, a good student of Vedanta can only be a student who can be objective in their hearing this subject. The more objective listening you have, the greater learning you will have. Why? Because actual point that Vedanta wants to make, none of us can perceive it. Our best intellect cannot perceive what Vedanta wants to tell us. That I am Brahman, I cannot in my dreams ever imagine. So, he says, excuse me. So, Mananam and Nididhyasanam. Mananam meant I have now no sanshaya left about Atma Vritti. Vritti Janit hai ab. It's born, it's formed in me. I've heard enough that I am Brahman. I'm Atman. I'm not this body. I'm not these thoughts. I'm nothing to do with this perception. I am that Sakshi Chaitanyam. I'm Kutastha. I'm Nitya. I'm Shashvata. Isko ab, as if there's a parda on that knowledge for us at this point. There is the unrelatability factor. That unrelatability factor is gone. For who? For the one who has done reflection, thinks about it. Reflection is nothing but thinking. Dhyayataha. Instead of Vishaya Dhyayataha, topic of sense objects that you reflect upon, your mind, whenever it is free, you keep it on the topic of the Shastra. उसके बारे में सोचते हो. And as a result of which the topic gets clearer and clearer. And a stage is where there is no doubt left. But my past habits, still my continuity of my identity with the body, still my notions, still my deep-seated ideas about who I am, they rise. And Nitidhyasana means I go on affirming that mananam till this is all settled. That prasadam I got. And in that prasadam, buddhihi is now tishtati. Tishtati means बैठ गई है, अब firm हो गई. Which buddhi? Brahma akar buddhi. It is the buddhi has the knowledge. I keep contrasting it with us today because that's where we relate most to. हमारी बुद्धि में कौन से आकार है? Akar means what? What do we think about? What are the objects that take our attention? हमारी बुद्धि में क्या आकार है?
Everything that can be outside, सब वही होता है.
सबसे पहला आकार क्या है?
Nah, the fact that you think that you are a body.
Excellent. Excellent. अहम, मैं, मेरा ज्ञान क्या है? मेरा ज्ञान आज कि मैं ये जीव हूं, मैं ये इंडिविजुअल हूं. रिमेंबर द उपदेश सार. आई एम दिस इंडिविजुअल. मैं, दैट आई इज दिस. हमारी बुद्धि में ये आकार है सारा. स्टार्ट्स विद दिस जीवा नोशन. ये मेरा ज्ञान है. Absolute opposite, that tu word, complete contrast. बुद्धि में जिसके ज्ञान है मैं is not मैं, this ब्रह्म स्वभाव, वो उसका आकार है. That's the knowledge with which he is. Seems impossible to most of us. That is why constantly it is repeated after every few verses in the Gita. The Mahatmyam of Gita is that when it gives that Brahma Akara Vritti Jnanam, it instantly gives Adhikaratvam Jnanam. Isko पाने के लिए ये अधिकारित्वम चाहिए. And how to get that adhikaritvam follows, that knowledge follows. So now where are we? We are on the adhikaritvam portion. अधिकारी कैसे बनते हो? By showing the lakshanas of that person, they are saying this is also the way to become an adhikari for that. Why should you be interested in that? We are coming back to the fundamentals all the time because you need to connect it to the fundamentals. Why should we be interested in that?
Because once you see these symptoms, you will know that you are on the right path.
Absolutely. Correct. Very good. So you know you are moving. Even if it's a snail's pace, how does that matter? You are in the right direction is all that matters. How fast and how slow is not important. It's if the answer is our immediate surroundings for what is our car, then our car is actually just our own mind, our own idea of me. Vedanta Shravanam is to be received in totality. Ek drishti. That ek drishti itself is a bhagyam, is a practice. Receive full and then let it churn with my existing thoughts. उथल पुथल करते हैं. वेदांत श्रवणम में भी इतने आइडियाज हैं, इतने schools हैं. There is a school on avidya which will say this. There is another thought sampradaya of avidya which will say this. Even within my shravanam, there will be doubts that come from outside. Sampradaya mein hi doubts honge. One school will say this, another school will say this. But leave that aside. By my hearing what has come, how is that information churning with my knowledge? That is what he is saying. Such a person who is now freed himself, ये apने आप से नहीं है. He's worked on it. thought by thought, he deassociated this entire bundle. वो जो जाल बन गया है आज मन में, वो एक एक करके आराम से, there is no hurry, you're in a timeless state, unwinds it. And when he unwinds it, keeps the mind on the vichar of the higher, keeps the mind on the vichar of the higher, and as a result of it, gets chitta shuddhi. Chitta shuddhi means that relative peace. And here he says, through that relative peace, he has now got absolute peace. So, Karam Yoga, duties, emulating a higher established person, or values, higher values in life, bhakti, all these, japa, etc., all these are relative peace. Through relative peace, freeing yourself, coming to absolute peace is what Sthita Prajna portion is showing to us. And then 66th verse also is a continuity of the 64th and the 65th. These three verses you can talk together actually. We'll do it, of course, next time. But in a general way, he's just kind of giving a vyatireka that the one whose buddhi is not sthir, to complete the thought flow, I'm just covering it in a line now. The one whose buddhi is not firm, युक्त नहीं है, जुड़ी नहीं है to the higher purpose of life, to something higher in life, to your own state, to your own स्वभाव, उसको उस पुरुषार्थ से अगर जुड़ी नहीं है, such a person, where is the question of them having that bhavana? Bhavana here means identification with it, that sangaha. Where will it become a thicker stream for them? And the one who doesn't have that bhavana for it, that immediateness with the aparoksha atma, शांति ही कैसे आएगी उसको? उसका मन कैसे शांत होगा? उसका अंतकरण कैसे शांत होगा? That restlessness that we are talking about, that disturbed mind that everybody has when they get up in the mornings, शांति नहीं आ सकती जिसकी भावना नहीं है in the higher, in atma, in परमात्मा, in something that is related to the higher. जिसकी, और वो क्यों नहीं है? क्योंकि बुद्धि युक्त नहीं है. बुद्धि खिंच जाती है दुनिया में, खिंच जाती है ऑब्जेक्ट्स में, खिंच जाती है लोगों में, the buddhi draws out into its world of प्राप्त and अप्राप्त विषय. तो उसकी बुद्धि स्थिर नहीं है, बुद्धि स्थिर नहीं है तो भावना स्थिर नहीं है, जिसकी भावना स्थिर नहीं है तो उसकी शांति स्थिर नहीं है. And the verse Krishna says in a simple verse, जो शांत नहीं है, कुत्ता सुखम, उसको सुख कहाँ से मिलेगा? तो आपको चाहिए क्या? सुख. तो सुख कहाँ से मिलेगा आपको? जब आपका बुद्धि ही फर्म नहीं है. And take that as 52-53 verse coming from there. बिखरी हुई है बुद्धि, यहाँ जाना वहां जाना, ये करना वो करना, ये पाना वो खोना, all trying to figure. There's no doubt, it's not wrong. It is an attempt to figure our place in the world and what we are supposed to do. Buddhi will work like that, no doubt about that. But that is, now the journey begins when you start saying there can only be one purpose to life. Have I been able to resolve that purpose? जब तक वो नहीं होगा तब तक बुद्धि अयुक्त ही रहेगी. And जब तक अयुक्त रहेगी तब तक कुत्ता सुखम. How do you expect happiness here? सुख कैसे मिलेगा? अंदर ही अंदर, you're boiling inside, you're burning inside, you're restless inside, you're hurt inside, you're anger inside, you're frustrated inside. अंदर सब कुछ ये सब चल रहा है. कैसे चला ये सब अंदर? Go back to 62-63 verse. ध्यायतो विषयान पुंसः. I hope the connections are being relatable. Yeah? Okay, so here we will end the class. Let me just do the invocation. Any question? Just on this? Or else we'll just end. Om Sarvesham Swastir Bhavatu Sarvesham Shantir Bhavatu Sarvesham Purnam Bhavatu Sarvesham Mangalam Bhavatu Sarve Bhavantu Sukhinah Sarve Santu Niramayaha Sarve Bhadrani Pashyantu Ma Kaschit Dukha Bhag Bhavet. Om Swasti Prajabhyah Paripalayantam Nyayena Margena Mahim Mahishaha Go Brahmanebhyah Shubhamastu Nityam Loka Samasta Sukhino Bhavantu Kale Varshatu Parjanyah Prithvi Sasya Shalini Deshoyam Shobharahitah Brahmana Santu Nirbhayaha Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Okay. So, thank you everyone.
Thank you, Dipti ji.
Thank you, Ji.
Hari Om Dipti ji.
Hari Om Ji. Hari Om. I can't see. Where is the... Okay.
Thank you, Dipti ji.
Thank you, Ji. Thank you, everyone.
It's just that
Hari Om
really
Dipti ji. Thank you.
strong.
The recording has started. Recording has stopped.
Thank you so much, Dipti ji.
Thank
Hari
you,
Om.
Ji. Hari Om Ji. Thank you, everyone.